Howdy, everybody. Testing, testing. It's been so long since I've done this. Just gonna make sure everything's working as it should. I'm going live early. All right. Looks like everything's working here. Thanks to the few of you that are here. Gonna kind of get everything situated here. Let some more people get in the chat. Kind of do a little backwards review of some of my previous work. Um, kind of connect some more dots. I had planned this video for later down the road, but due to the fact that the article was written before um, the book Queen Moo was finished and published, I felt like now is probably a better time before I got too far into that series. And the information is just going to kind of connect some more dots that I was hoping to finalize before the end of the year. And it's going to kind of correlate between my transition period in my Etruscan series and the kind of overlapping idea of what is Mu, Lemuria, Atlantis, these ideas of these continents or a large island of sorts where, you had all of the people and races kind of in a sense in harmony, although there's many disputed claims of that. But yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Sorry for the early start. Just worked out for my schedule. I was planning on filming this video earlier today and not doing a live, but that's just I felt like why not just do it live if I was going to be recording this video so late. I figured it'd be nice to just kind of get a live going and talk to some people in chat. And yeah, it's already a lot of new faces. So thanks for joining me. Old World McMac, as always. Thanks for being here, brother. Skid Row, welcome. So yeah, as a sort of review of sense, right? I've been working my way through Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx, and I'm only what 2 videos in, so not very far. My plan was to read the entire book and split it up into segments, but I've been kind of doing it the opposite as time suits me, and presenting shorter videos with a bunch of articles that I had found prior to me even reading the book. And like a lot of books that have come into my life in the last few years, many of them I found through reading old newspaper articles. And Queen Moo is a perfect example. Um, this was an article I came across years ago, but saved for my Etruscan series. And for those of you that aren't familiar, I have a video series. Check my playlist on the Etruscans, correlating a lot of the early history in Rome and Italy and how that correlates as far as they're kind of a mysterious race, quote mysterious. A lot of their history and language and art and so on and so forth was buried. Kind of the exact same story of what happened here when Cortez came and destroyed all the libraries and burned all the books and blah blah blah. This is kind of always the narrative is destroy the people's past, rob them, destroy their history, destroy all proof of their history, and recreate a false version of that history. It kind of summarizes the state of the world currently. And if you haven't seen my video I did yesterday, the Chinese and the ancient first settlers of America, I wanted to do that before I did this video because it's going to correlate with my kind of overarching synopsis as far as the kind of theme of this channel that, in a sense, we're living in a kind of mechanized system, a closed mechanized system. Like, what would be the correct way to say this? Kind of like a simulation of sorts. Oh, Stellium, look at that. Going live at 2 a.m. Yeah, well, this was just completely random. I just was already planning on recording this video And everyone say hi to Stellium. If you don't know Stellium's work, make sure to check it out. Um, but anyways, we're dealing with a article here that has pretty substantial overlays with kind of the biblical narratives of that so many of us are familiar with today. But my video from yesterday shows that we're dealing with a culture that was found in ruins, but underneath these ruins, they found 3 to 4 different civilizations. So, if the surface level civilization has come and gone, been buried, and new people have come to inhabit their abandoned buildings, doesn't that kind of ring true with this whole Tartaria stuff, blah, blah, blah? And then I'm looking kind of beyond and below, so to say, that whole narrative, right? That, of course, people are familiar with the mud flood and what that represents and what that means, and that we seem to be inhabiting regions that were inhabited in a previous age of sorts, and that many of the large cities of America have a historical narrative that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And I'm kind of saying that, yeah, that exists, but on layers far beyond what we've ever really, um, at least we're just starting to kind of break the surface on. So yeah, make sure to check out my video from yesterday when not only are we going to be talking about kind of surface level Mayan um, ruins, cosmology, cosmogony, but as the article yesterday stated, they found 4 buried civilizations in total. So when we talk about Mayan, Mayaks, and that their history seems to be the beginning or origins of not only kind of the Cain and Abel story, Adam and Eve, but also the historical stories of Egypt and the Nile Valley and many other places. But that's where the focus is going to be today. So, again, time is precious. Just kind of a little bit of a ramble. And again, if you aren't familiar with a lot of my videos here, be sure to check out my playlist. There's quite a lot there, and it's fairly well organized. It's a lot of material, but the videos, for the most part, are fairly short. And again, another update on Anomalous America. Um, I still plan on getting that video out by Tuesday. Whether or not it's going to be an early live show or a midday live show, I haven't decided yet. Joe, cool. Good to see you. It's been a long time. Anthony Wall, as always, good to see you. And the rest of you guys, thanks as we kind of get everybody trickling in here. A random live stream. 73, sweet. Um, yeah, so it's been a long break. I don't even know. It's been like 40 days since I did a video yesterday, and I don't even know how long since I've done a live stream. Probably October 8th. I don't even know. It's been a really long time. So to see all of you in here on an impromptu live stream is great, and it means a lot. For the sake of time, this is a fairly large article, so we're just going to kind of jump right in here. Um, yeah, let's get going here. As you can tell by the thumbnail, Eden in America. And that's the name of this article. It's from 1896. Get rid of my face. We're going to jump right in here. Let me make. I'm going to read the kind of thumbnails here, let you look at the images a little bit. That's annoying. Why won't it let me? Just a map here, kind of showing you the Yucatan Mayaks, as it's called. These are important images here. Now, these are images found in the Yucatan, okay? This is an image of Queen Mu. She also was known as Isis. Here's an image of Prince Ko, known in kind of European biblical language as Abel. Here's the death mask of Queen Mu. Now, I know some of this information is going to be completely new, or it's going to be kind of a review for perhaps some of you that have heard me talk about this quite a lot. Now, the death mask of Queen Mu, this was found in Egypt, but the story of Queen Mu is that she feared for her life and she fled the Yucatan and went up the Mediterranean to Egypt, where she brought gifts from her native land, corn, oranges, different kinds of citrus. The orange is really important because you'll see, if you aren't familiar with my talks with Old World Florida, Eden in Florida, the Garden of Eden in Florida, the Gulf of Mexico being the Fertile Crescent. I've done quite a lot of videos with him. He has been with Michelle Gibson. Where no, I haven't done anything with Michelle. Your show with they're talking about Stellium. Stellium did a show with Michelle Gibson. It was fantastic. Strongly recommend it. I look forward to doing something with Michelle. I've never reached out. We've never spoke. If someone wants to put us in touch, just email my YouTube channel, and yeah, I'd love to talk to her because a lot of our work overlaps. So it'd be pretty fun chat. The spear that killed Abel, and then the statue of Prince Ko in Central America. Now remember, Prince Ko was also known as Abel. So let's get into the material here. Eden in America. Hopefully the quality's okay. I think I've had this issue with you guys before. It looks pretty good on the stream. Okay. So again, we're starting over here. Eden in America. Cain and Abel, Dr. Le Plongeon, again, the author of the book Queen Moo, but this article was written before he finished his book and has a lot of notables that don't exist in the book. Le Plongeon thinks lived on our isthmus. So again, Cain and Abel lived on the Yucatan. Wonderful discoveries which changed the history of the origin of the race. Abel's heart and the spear which pierced it among this explorer's strange trophies. Biblical references explained. Religion as well as law reached high development with this strange, forgotten race. The Garden of Eden was in America. Adam was an American citizen. We now know about the forbidden fruit. Now, again, this is an important correlation. I'll read one small excerpt, but again, check out my videos with Old World Florida as we dive a lot more into this idea of the oranges and citrus, and that the orange is the true apple of Eden. And the orange tree is really what Adam and Eve were surrounding, was an orange tree. This kind of correlates again with some of my radium work, the importance of spring water, sunshine, and radium. They actually found that oranges absorb radium from spring water. And radium imparts its light in crystal form, not only in water, but in actual solid crystal in an orange like hue. So, no coincidence that the orange was very symbolic not only of the sun, but life giving light, so to say. Structured water. Yeah, again, my radium series, I talk a lot about this, the elixir of life. The kind of idea that the fountain of youth was in Florida as well as the Yucatan, because the spring water here was imparted with a lot of radium as well. Not quite to the extent in Florida, but the entire Gulf of Mexico has the highest concentrations of radium of any seawater in the world. But yeah, that's a bit off topic. But the orange is important in this conversation. We'll cover a little bit more of that, but I'll stick to this article for it's fairly lengthy. Where was I? Forbidden fruit, right, was the orange. Eve did not eat it. Cain was not a murderer. The quarrel between the brothers was all on account of a woman. There are the facts brought to light by some recent archaeological discoveries. The discoverer is Dr. Augustus Le Plongeon, the eminent explorer. Authentic portraits have been found of these actors in the famous drama, which is the earliest recorded account of the human race. Indeed, Dr. Le Plongeon has the spearhead with which he thinks the traditional Abel was killed, and also what he thinks is a section of his heart. These he secured from the tomb in Central America in which Abel is buried. Much was learned of them from a very wonderful book which Dr. Le Plongeon brought with him from the Yucatan. In it is the story of this very remarkable family, whose history formed the basis for the latest traditions of the origin of the human race. There are only two people in the world able to read the strange, forgotten language of this ancient chronicle. These two are Dr. Leponjon and his wife, who have spent years of patient study in mastering the hieroglyphics. The manuscript is as beautiful as one of the illuminated. Again, I apologize on my zoomed in version of the PDF here. It gets pretty fuzzy, so I may have some pronunciation errors here. Illuminated missals, I don't know, of the old European monks. It is in characters of blue, green, crimson, and gold, elegantly outlined on yellow parchment. And also for some of you who don't follow me on Twitter or on Instagram, over the years I've posted quite a lot about the Mayan language and shown that it has endless correlations with Greek. And at the end of this video, we're going to show how the Greek alphabet is actually the story of the flood, the Mayan story of the flood. Just to kind of hop over here real quick, here it is. I posted this years ago. Um, but yeah, the alphabet is actually the story of the deluge. Back to the article here. Dr. Leponjon's book, to be published in March, will contain an account of this remarkable history. It reads like a romance and is supposed to throw great light on the early traditions of mankind. Dr. Leponjon is not half so much interested in the probable explanation of the old story of paradise as he is in the fact that he has discovered the key to the old Mayan language. There are other books. I apologize here. You can't read it. There are other books, something characters, some of them older than the one he has just translated, and antedating all other records of the human race. The translation of these will be a contribution to history of inestimable value. The rare prints, photographs, and casts which he has collected will someday form a valuable collection for a great museum. One of these is worth 10,000, another one is valued at 2,500. This letter the Metropolitan Museum would much like to possess, but it is not in a position to purchase it. It would be a handsome gift for some public spirited citizen. Down in the little strip of country that binds North to South America, once flourished a rich and powerful empire. Its civilization excelled anything since known on Earth. It marked a prehistoric millennia, for at the height of its development, the empire had grown beyond warfare and capital punishment. There was no shedding of blood. The relics of its inhabitants, sculpture and architecture, challenge comparison with those of Greece. Again, the Greece correlation is important. We're going to make huge connections there. I've already made quite a few of them in my Etruscan series, and we're going to show that the Etruscans came from the Yucatan. Their laws seem to have far better than those of today. They had a literature from which other ancient nations seem to have borrowed copiously, if not always accurately. They were physically a perfect race, and theirs was the day of Methuselah's. Their religion forms the basis of more modern religions. They worshipped one God, the creator and king of all things, and believed in the immortality of the soul. Their women were equal with men and fought with them side by side in battle, as well as sharing in all social, civil, and religious honors. It will thus be seen that the new woman is not so very new after all. She is something over 10,000 years old. The seat of this magnificent empire, which included all of the land of Tehuantepec to the Isthmus of the Darien, was known as Mayax. Uxmal was the seat of the government. Now, Uxmal is key, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get farther in this video. But I've posted a lot on my social media about Uxmal and the correlations with Uxmal and Etruria and Italy, the history and historical narratives of Noah. Noah, again, I've stated this before, but for a lot of you new to my material or maybe haven't seen it all, I talked a lot about this again with Old World Florida, Dr. Longo, and I've posted my own videos on this on my channel as well. But my theory as well is that Noah built his ark here in the Gulf of Mexico, and fled into the Mediterranean, and that he landed in Italy. Now, I've talked a lot about the insane correlations from a geometric standpoint between the Mediterranean and the Gulf of Mexico. They're literally mirrors of each other. I mean, you can't, there's so many mathematical correlations, their shape, their size, their distances. The Mississippi River, and the Nile are just mirror images of one another. Anyways, so we'll get into that more. I've talked a lot about this in my Etruscan series again. So if that's something you're more interested in, there's quite a few videos I have on that. Um, the seat of government, while the seat of learning in the metropolis of the empire was Chichen Itza. To it came pilgrims from all parts of the world to see its glories and taste of its wonderful knowledge, or to sacrifice in its great grand temples. Now, I've talked about the sacrifices too. They talked about the blood was not spilled. Now, their sacrifice was very interesting. In fact, it correlated a lot with the Brahmin and the Druids. They sacrificed their first fruits. According to Dr. Leopold, the name Maya may be met with in the language of Asia, Africa, America, and Europe. And wherever noticed will also be seen vestiges of the languages, customs, and religion of the old Mayan people. Their traditions have been recorded in the sacred books of again, I apologize, of the Nutius, and eventually became part of the religious history of mankind, nations. Knowledge, as in all the old civilizations, was a matter of caste. The masses were taught in figurative language. Now, this is a lot like today, and we're going to get into some of the Masonic iconography found all over this region. Throughout a lot of my Anomalous America, I've shown that the oldest Masonic emblems ever found were found here in the Americas, and that they found several tribes, quote, tribes, that they correlated to have been the lost tribes, and that they were practicing, quote, Masonic ritual, many of them living underground. The Mayan scholars had an excellent knowledge of geography and had their maps. It is not likely the maps would be of much practical value to modern geographers, as the different countries were represented under the forms of certain animals or objects. The ancient rulers of Mayax received their title of Khan. Now, again, really important. Khan, Odin, Wotan, Wotan. These titles are found all over the world. Serpent, from the shape of the country, and one who looks at a map of Central America can see how it resembles a serpent. This title was a general one. I mean, we can just talk about Khan, Khan, Khans of Tartary, on and on and on. This title was a general one. Every ruler was a king, a Khan. After his death, the ruler was deified, and thus may be accounted for the origin of serpent worship. Now, this is interesting because when you start to look into ancestral worship, found predominantly in Asia, um, the serpent is integral in this. The dragon, so to say, the serpent is held sacred, as is the tree in the mythology of every country. Both have been closely related, and no explanation has before been found for this relation. Myox was of old also figured as a tree planted in the continent of South America, with Yucatan as its principal branch. Now, this is incredible because, and again, Stellium was in the chat. Me and him we've done a few videos together now. The one that's on my channel that you can find under, just look up Stellium. We talk about the giant trees of our past, and the kind of mother tree Yggdrasil, so to say, and then how they had a very similar iconography and story to that. Again, the same cultural, religious representation found all over the world. The sacred tree, its representative, again, I apologize. I'll have to kind of the Kelba tree is an evergreen tree, of course, with wide spreading branches, and is to this day planted in front of the churches in Central America. Typifying the country of Mayax, the seat of religious and secular wisdom, it was, in the figurative language of the day, known as the tree of knowledge of life. It was truly placed in the middle of the garden, the empire of Maya being between the two continents, North and South America. About 11,500 years ago lived a king who was remarkable in many ways. He added greatly to the power and prestige of the Maya Empire. Now, just the word Maya alone, as I stated earlier in this article, it's found in just about every continent on the world. We talked about Buddha, Maya, Buddha, Maya, the idea of it being kind of a representative of this physical realm we inhabit, it being kind of an illusory state. Um, that their kings often were deified by two different personalities, the conscious and the subconscious mind, and that they were very much aware in their cosmogony that Maya, the physical body, was a bit of an illusion. You know, Buddhists and Maya, the mother of Buddha, and Guatemala, Buddha, Guatemala was also known as a Mecca, and no coincidences there. Um, Either he gathered together and made of the previous scattered beliefs a compact theology, a state religion, or is less likely, he was a man of great spiritual insight and was the founder of a new religion. He built stately temples for the worship and placed over it as its high priest his eldest son, Prince K. He had two other sons, Ak and Ko, besides two daughters, Mu and Niece, or Nietzsche. Prince Ak was a frivolous, dissipated young person, a fair type of some princelings. His brother Ko, however, was a brave and successful warrior and added many countries to the Maya Empire. It was the law in the empire that the youngest son of the royal family should marry the eldest daughter, a custom afterward in a measure followed in Egypt. Princess Mu was a very clever young person and of exceptional beauty. Prince Ak, therefore, in addition to being jealous of his brother's fame and popularity, began to covet his future wife. While her fiance, while her fiance was absent on his military expeditions, Ak therefore made most violent love to the young lady. There are representations of this wooing of some of the old monuments, and Dr. Jean and his pictures of some of them in his collection. One of them represents a young man in costume of the Mayans standing in a garden in the most supplicating attitude before, apparently, a small summer house in which is seated a disdained woman. A bird flutters just over her head, and a serpent winds around a tree above him. A basket of oranges is before her. Now, this custom is really important. And their quest seems to be that she will deign to partake of the fruit. You know from the expression on her face that she will not. It is a concentration of the scorn of all, the ver de vers. You have the old story of the forbidden fruit told in scripture over 10,000 years ago. It is the custom in Maya and is in Central America to this day for enamored swains to make known their love to the lady of their hearts by a gift of fruit, and that gift is oranges. Again, why that's really important. And that when she leaves the Yucatan, she takes oranges with her to the Mediterranean. And why the orange is such a potent symbol and found on palaces and castles all over Europe. If the fruit is accepted, so is the love. But if it is refused, the unhappy lover carries it away to a more appreciative shrine or goes off to the shade and seclusion of some remote selva tree to eat the fruit himself as he meditates on the fickleness of women. Prince Ak did neither of these two things. He simply plunged deeper in the fouling bowl, or whatever sort of bowl the ancient Mayans indulged in, and bided his time. Princess Mu married Prince Ko, high priest, doubtless officiating at the ceremony, whose splendor would cast in the shade any of the modern royal ceremonies, either at Westminster Abbey or Notre Dame. Not many years elapsed before King Khan, the father of the princess, died, and the empire was parceled out among the children. Princess Mu became the queen of the Kluchen, and its lord swore allegiance to her. She was a prehistoric blue stocking, and if Dr. Lepongeon is right, the word owes her a debt of gratitude. Ak received the ancient city of Uxmal as his share. In spite of his labors, Prince Ko does not even seem to have been given much of anything. His strong minded wife received the lion's share. King Ak found his former charmer doubly attractive as the mistress of the wealthiest city in the empire. So he began making love again. Naturally, her sorry, her husband objected. She objected herself. War ensued, in which two factions in the empire were involved. Prince Ko was killed, history says, by his brother. The dead warrior was given a handsome burial in a tomb, on the walls of which this part of his history is painted. Ak is represented as with three spears in his hand, engaged in a duel with Ko. He eventually met his death, not according to the code, for the indignant artist represents Ox as treacherous, treacherously stabbing his brother 3 times in the back with his spear. In an urn in this tomb, Dr. Lepageon found a heart, partially cremated, and the head of a spear. This heart he believes to be that of the murdered prince, the weapon that which killed him. It was, as in Egypt, the custom to remove the vital organs in the embalming process, and these were preserved in urns. Civil war ensued after the death of Ko, and America had one of the greatest conflicts history knows anything about. Perceiving King Ak, Preserving King Ak, sent Queen Mu more fruit, which was more promptly and emphatically declined. The story, as related from the picture on the monuments year after year by the people, may gradually have grown into the story of the first temptation, the old serpent in the garden. Dr. Lepongeon says it is a very natural explanation. It was possibly some cross grained, jilted old bachelor chronicler who reversed the story and made women accept the fruit from Khan the serpent. As a result of the war and the persecution, Queen Mu with her followers fled from the country. Long before research shows colonies from Maya had crossed and settled in Egypt. The journey there was not such a long one. In the center of the Atlantic Ocean was the famous island Atlanta, sunk by earthquake in a night and a day, according to the old Maya chronicles. And I've done a video on that as well, where I talk about not only the Tower of Babel being in Central America, but the correlations between Atlantis. I have an Atlantis series that was part of my member series. You can check that out too, where I go into this quite extensively. The exiles were received with open arms in Egypt. It was almost like going among relatives. Here, in spite of all her troubles, Queen Mu's energetic spirit asserted itself. She took hold of affairs in Egypt. The priests were taught the sacred mysteries of the Mayans. Building was encouraged. Anyone who has seen pictures of the ruined palaces and temples of Egypt and those of Mayax will remark the similarity of style. Dr. Lepongeon shows in his book the remarkable similarity of the Egyptians and the Mayan religions. Right on the edge of the desert was erected a monument to Prince Ko. What was it? Nothing more nor less than the Sphinx. On the base of it recently were discovered Mayan words that make this supposition doubly certain. The name Ko signified leopard, and in Maya are monuments to him that might be first cousins to the Sphinx. They have human heads and shoulders, and their bodies are those of leopards. In Mayax, Mu had instituted divine honors for her husband. In Egypt, he was known as Osiris, from Azul, a Mayan verb, and signified the much beloved. Later, he became known as Osiris, or as translated in Chaldean, Abel. Queen Mu was the wife and sister of Prince Ko, the divine Osiris, or the murdered Abel. With the death of Queen Mu, or Mao, one day I'll do a video just on Mao, Ma, Mother, Mu, these kind of correlations to the Divine Mother, how that traces back to Isis. According to the Egyptian form, she became the great mother goddess Mao, or Isis, probably from the Mayan word sister. The history of Queen Mu, or Isis, that of Prince Ko, Osiris or Abel, and the wicked Khan, Cain, or Set became religious history, and from it there a probability that Moses learned what he afterward incorporated in Genesis as he was learned in all the lore of the Egyptian priests. The account of the creation of the Mayan monuments is similar to that found in India in all the old traditions. The scholars of Maya, however, remembered more clearly the scientific basis underlying the figurative language. The Mayans were notable astronomers as well as scientists. Their temples, built on high places and with terraced roofs, afforded an unobstructed view of the sky in an latitude where the clear, luminous atmosphere makes visible to the naked eye stars seen elsewhere only with telescopes. Thus, in the forests of Central America today, grown over by the underbrush, marred somewhat by the hand of time, as well as by that of ignorant men, is a great store of archaeological wealth that seems destined to throw a wonderful light on the history of humanity. Since his return from Yucatan, where he spent years in study, exploration, and rescue of historical relics, Dr. Leplongeon has devoted himself to the study of these photographs, sketches, and specimens. The result of his work will be found in the book, which promises to be one of the most interesting of its kind ever issued. Though his work and enthusiasm, interest has been awakened in Central America, which is, according to Dr. Lepongeon's theory, the lost land of the West of the ancients. Remember, even the Egyptians said that they came from the land of the West. The setting sun. The Professor Seville of the Museum of Natural History is now about to equip and start out with another expedition. While Dr. Plongeon himself advances no theories, the evidence of the old inscriptions and manuscripts, then made public, are calculated to occasion some rearrangements of current historical ideas and data. At any rate, further in the distance recedes the legend of the lost paradise, the garden in the midst of which was the tree of knowledge. Lo King Khan the elder seems to have been the Adam of Moses. Kol the Osiris, the Abel and Ak, the Set, the Cain, and the Mayan Empire, the tree of life in the midst of the garden. And it is sweet to think that after all the story of women's eating the forbidden fruit has been a base slander. Thanks for bearing with me. Sorry for not, always getting to live chat there. That was a long-winded one. Thanks for sticking with me. But man, super powerful. And I probably should have got this one out before I started reading the book. But since I've only gone through the introduction and I haven't got into the chapters yet, I think the timing was actually pretty good. So yeah, what do you think? I'm gonna pay some more attention to chat here. I'm gonna get some more material ready. Let's stop screen. I'm gonna line up just a few more things here before I finish up. Again, thanks for sticking with me as we do a long-winded live read, which I don't do too many of, especially that long. I do plan on getting back into the radium stuff. I may finish up the Etruscan stuff. I have maybe 1 or 2 episodes worth of material left for that. But again, timing just felt like this was what I needed to get out next. Um, so yeah, we talked about the oranges and the Garden of Eden, and again, if you want more information on that, you definitely got to check out Dr. Longo, Lost World or Old World Florida. Um, Amazing videos on that subject matter. Not only does he correlate so much with my material, but we talk a lot about Noah, the biblical truths about the river with 4 heads, and the idea that the ark was built from wood found only in that region, and so on and so forth. But yeah, and again, number one, I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys watching. So 122 of you, fantastic. Feels great to finally get back into doing some lives. My plan was to do 1 or 2 lives a week, and let me know if you think this is something worth doing more of. I kind of felt like people weren't too interested in doing live large reads, but um, pretty stoked to have so many of you in here. Where do I want to finish? I want to finish up with just kind of making some correlations again. Remember what they talked a lot about Uxmal, right, which was their religious capital. Now, really important correlation here is that Uxmal was a city in Etruria or Italy, right? Italy was Etruria, or a region of Italy was called Etruria. And Uxmal was kind of their religious capital. Now, how funny is that? No coincidence, I think. Oh, Russell, thank you. Big fan. I really like the material you introduced. You and Old World bringing back some lost history. Thanks, APOC. Appreciate it. Is is it a plateau or plain with a mound? Maybe I missed what that was too. The dimensions align. I think Tower of Babel is located in Quebec. Yeah, troublemaker. I actually have posted a lot on the Eye of Quebec. Um, if you're not familiar with UBTV, coincidentally, I posted my material a little bit before he actually did his episode on that. I'm not claiming any of the material or anything. I think that people come across things, or things come into the conscious mind or the collective mind at similar times. But yeah, the video he did on that, and I've also posted a lot on that region. The Eye of Quebec is incredibly interesting. I think there is a lot of evidence that uh, from a biblical standpoint, correlates quite nicely. The fruit was sex, and the devil was Cain's father. Yeah, Abbott, again, I don't always want to say that I feel like this is anything that I'm deeming 100% fact. I'm kind of building a collage of things that I've come across in old newspapers and why I'm so interested in them and the perspectives that they share that are kind of lost in today's age. So, again, when I read a newspaper article, I don't always agree with the writer's perspective, and that goes without saying, but I certainly am not trying to convince anybody of anything. Just bring new material to the forefront. It's quite amazing what these people were writing about in the 1800s and how it correlates so stupendously with what is kind of in the alternative mainstream as far as the conspiracy esque world of today. Hey, Ben, I trust all is well. Sending you good vibes. Thank you. Yeah, things are getting much better here. Chaos. We had puppies. We had all kinds of just crazy stuff going on in life here. Lack of sun season here in the northern latitudes. Of course, I'm in Oregon. I'm not that far north, but it has an effect on me and my family for sure. We're missing the sunshine big time. Just the regular flu and all that stuff going around. It's been kind of tough, especially when you have little kids. But yeah. Oh, look who it is. Longo's in the chat. Hey, Longo, we were just talking about you. Um, Yeah, miss you, love you. Um, Eden in America, um, pretty cool article. I don't think we've talked about before, but nothing new to you. Again, check out Old World Florida. There's plenty of material where we've done talks together. He has lots of well edited, fantastic material on this subject matter. Again, the Fertile Crescent, the Gulf of Mexico, the Yucatan, all this area is the hidden buried history here is extent. Oh, Donaviv, welcome. Good to see you. Ben, I'm in Dalles, Oregon. Oh, cool. So much spraying. Yeah. Yeah. Oregon's had it pretty rough. Pacific Coast in general. Pretend I'm not here. I'm just tuning in, love. I'll pretend you're not here. You got it. But yeah, so what I want to finish up with here is that we talked about the oranges and why I was mentioning that that was so important because in their customs, and again, why in not only kind of biblical representation, but in so many cultures, the orange is worshipped. Again, check out my radium episode where I go into the elixir of life. Um, but yeah, the symbolical nature of the orange and how it was the true apple of Eden, and how in the kind of marriage customs in the Yucatan, and was still until I believe the early 1900s, and may even be to this day, but I couldn't find much information on it past the 1920s. That gifts of fruit, predominantly oranges and citrus, were very common, especially when you're kind of like asking for a woman's hand in marriage, sort of thing. Um, but yeah, and then the connection with citrus and the citron and the orange, all the way into not only France but Spain and other parts of Europe, especially Etruria, Italy. Again, the correlations with what I had stated earlier about the story of Noah leaving the Gulf of Mexico and finding his way to Italy. But yeah, so Uxmal, right, in Etruria and the Etruscans, right? I just want to finish up with some of my older posts here. This one is from, what are we at? Well, a little over a year ago. But I read this one and tied it in with one of my Etruscan videos. But this one is from 1919. It's called "Aztecs Were Crossbred of Indians and Etruscans," declares Professor Porta. Here's an image here. It says these Mexican Indians of the present day show plainly their descent from the early Italian race known as the Etruscans, according to Professor Albert F. Porta. The man, in short, heavy set, and has Italian rather than Mongolian features. The woman is of similar build, and moreover, the jar in her hand, the headdress, and the designs of embroidery on bondis, not sure, and the skirt are all duplicates of those of Etruscan origin. Now I've mentioned this, and I've had quite a few posts in the past about tartan clothing. Longo talks about this as well over Florida in some of his seminal videos. This tartan fabric is found all the way into Nova Scotia and is found all over Europe, and is quite a powerful indicator as well. Not to mention the kind of scimitar scythe, not scythe, this kind of curved blade is also quite an important marker here. The article goes on to describe that some 6 miles inland from the Gulf of Campeche on the northwest coast of the Yucatan, where Antistesis, the Etruscan admiral, is believed to have landed about 478 years before the birth of Christ, stands the crumbling jungle ruins of a once great city. The ancient name of this ruined city, the first recorded visit to which was made by the Spanish bishop de Landa, who traveled in the train of Hernando Cortez, was Uxmal. Now we have Uxmal identified by that name far before, but in this those presentations and the information came out later, after this article was written. Half a hundred archaeologists of note have pondered the mystery of Uxmal, just as they have those of other ruined communities in the former kingdom of Quiche, those of Tikal, Chichen Itza, and Zupa in particular. But one by one they have given up, saying, on this point history is silent. It would seem that none of these savants, and I offer the suggestion with all courtesy and with great deference to their erudition, has given sufficient time to a consideration of ancient Etruria. Otherwise, they would have learned and quickly applied to the reflections on prehistoric America. And I'm not sharing. How dare I? Unbelievable. Rookie move. My apologies, guys. 1 second here. There we go. So we'll go back, and you heard me reading. This is my post here. This is on Twitter. It's called "Aztecs Were Crossbreeds of Indians and Etruscans." This is a DC newspaper, 1919. Here's the picture I was telling you about. Rookie move, my apologies, where they're describing the dress and the correlations to a Turia. And again, I've talked about the tartan. The tartan exists. You see a lot of Seminole overlays here. Many other Indian cultures. The tartan is found again, like I said, the Nova Scotia, Scotland, on and on and on. And I was reading to you about the once Greek city called Uxmal. That name is ancient, goes long before Cortez. Where was I? The theory that the Aztecs, the marvelous race of people who flourished in Mexico at the time of the conquest, were a crossbreed between Aboriginal Indians and an Aryan race, has been upheld, or at least unchallenged, by the majority of historians and students of early American life. Bancroft, perhaps the most eminent of American historians, asserts that the voyages between Europe and America were not uncommon during the early days of the Christian era. Of course not. This idea of all these tribes and peoples wandering by foot is absolute nonsense. Full world Micmac still in here. That's pretty easy. What's Ben's handle on Twitter? 1_analog_9. That's my same on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Instagram. It's the same on all social media. 10,000 posts. I've been doing it on there for 12 years. So quite a long time. Lots of information to dive into. If you follow me, you can go to my profile page and you can search keywords, Etruscan, Mayan, Greek, whatever you're kind of looking for. And it should, although it is kind of a sloppy, um, Twitter's not my favorite. I really actually am starting to prefer Instagram, but I've just put so much time and effort into Twitter that it's easier for me to bring up old articles like this and share them with you guys. Where was I? Okay, crossbreed, right? Crossbreed between the Aboriginal Indians and the Aryan race. But proves of a much earlier influx of Europeans, of the Etruscans and Carthaginians, heretofore mentioned, exist in great plenitude throughout Mexico and Central America today. Yeah, now who are the Phoenicians? Right? Carthaginians. Now, in my Etruscan series, we break down that for hundreds of years, the origins of the Etruscan language were a mystery. But ultimately, they ended up correlating them with Finnish, Phoenician, and then the overlays here with Greek and Mayan are endless. So we're dealing with a similar culture. And then the Queen Mu, Eden in America story, it kind of bow ties all of this into one another, and that you can see the correlation. It's ancient. It goes way back in time, way before Cortez. And later on in the Queen Mu Egyptian Sphinx story, we'll get into their flood myths and talk about how they talk about 4 ages, which correlates again to the video I shared yesterday, that they say there were 4 different groups of civilization that were all destroyed by different elements: flood, fire, so on and so forth. Wind's a big one. Wind is going to correlate to the falling of the trees and the ending of the vapor canopy, the pressure and oxygen levels drastically changing, the end of the giants, the end of the megafauna. So yeah, if that's something else you haven't heard me talk about, you can check out my fall of the vapor canopy videos, my giant tree videos, on and on and on. So yeah, they're talking about the Etruscans and the Carthaginians. They're saying, oh, we keep finding overlays between these people. Well, yeah, because the Carthaginians and the Phoenicians and the Etruscans, and the root is here in the Fertile Crescent. Consider the present day Indian types whose photographs are reproduced herewith. The man of typical Latin build, vastly different from the North American Indian, who was tall, straight, and long of arm and leg. The features, moreover, as in the case of the women, are decidedly Aryan, as against the almost Mongolian cast of the more northerly tribes. Now, this is really important because in some of my Atlantis videos where I talk about the Yucatan and the kind of historical narratives when it comes to, quote, Atlantis and Lemuria, is that we were dealing with all phenotypes, all types of skin color, height, skeletal structure, whatever, right? And these Mongolian Aryan titles came obviously much later, late 1700s, 1800s. These are new names, and that these titles and ideas did not exist. Oh, thank you so much, Modoc. I sincerely hope this helps, man. Much love. Oh yeah, That's fantastic. I mean, any donation, just tuning in and your kind words is fantastic. But any donations, it means a lot to me. Obviously, I'd have to take time away from raising three kids to do this, and it's really been a calling. And again, I took a long break, and to have 130 of you here, it means a lot to me. So yes, any little bit helps. A cent, a penny helps. Just watching along and tuning in helps. So I appreciate that very much. Look carefully at the costumes of the women, right? They talked about the designs are typically Etruscan. The embroidery, the stripes, the skirt, even the coifer in her hands is a water jar pure Etruscan model. Now, that's fantastic because when we talk about Greek pottery, what they're really saying is Etruscan pottery. And when they're saying Etruscan pottery, are they saying Mayan pottery? It seems very much likely, right? Um, this goes on for quite some time here, where they correlate almost endlessly that the not only the construction design of Uxmal and the temples of Uxmal and the mounds of Uxmal, but so much more endlessly correlates with Etruria in Italy. The architecture of the deserted cities now crumbling to pieces in the jungles are Etruscan. The design of age-old fountains, wells, etc., scattered throughout Central America are Etruscan. Jewelry and other ornaments into which designs are worked, all Etruscan. Now, again, so who or what are Etruscans? What is Etruria? Again, as I stated, Queen Mu brought all of this with her to Egypt. And even the Eturians or Etruria, they say they have the same idea as the Egyptians, that they came from their sacred land to the west, the land of the setting sun. Um, I want to just show some pictures here. Here's a newspaper article from the late 1800s, um, where they show many of the Masonic emblems are found on the temples of Uxmal. Now, if Tonavi is in the channel, he'll know this one. You have your apron, your Masonic apron, and the hand, famous hand symbol. These are very important. If this is something you're interested in, we can dive into much more. There's quite an extensive bit of information when it comes to the Masonic emblems and symbology found all over America, ancient America. Now, here's two mounds from Etruria or Italy, two ancient mounds, how they correlate almost perfectly with mounds found in Uxmal. Here's Uxmal itself, and here's a little excerpt where I got these images from. The Indian sitting posture too is found in America, right? This sitting posture, legs crossed of Buddha and all these other images that are found all over India, Asia. They're found all over the quote Native American cultures of the Mississippi Valley, all the way down into Peru and so forth. The famous bas relief at Palenque, the figure in which sat with the leg bent up, exactly like the Hindu Manadeva, don't know. The sloped ceilings of Uxmal and Palenque are singularly like the well-known Etruscan Regulini Galassi. I murdered that. But again, what's really important here is you find tombs like this all over Ireland, a few in Scotland, some in Britain. But these mounds were found in Alaska. Mounds just like this were found in Alaska. And they even said that they had a prominent what was the word? I don't want to say Celtic because I don't think they said Celtic. But for those of you that are familiar with many of the mounds or the kind of um, these style of tombs, they're found all over. So again, correlating the Druids and the Brahmins and the Mayans and so many things here. But I think we're at just about an hour, and that's about all the time I have. So I do such a horrible job of communicating with you guys through chat. So I'm going to kind of slow down a bit and just try to maybe answer some questions or just give some feedback on maybe I'm going to scan up through the comments here and see what I can find. Keep dropping knowledge. North American history is much more interesting and ancient than we have been taught in the classroom. Thank you, APOC. I agree very much. And again, if you're familiar with my work or not, I can't suggest my Anomalous America series enough. If 2 hours is too long, I cut a lot of my favorite segments out of those videos and put them in smaller, bite-sized pieces. And it's insane what they find from Alaska all the way to doing Indiana. on Tuesday. So every state is full of mind bending, um, buried history. Judgment Day is here. One-eyed cat peeping in a seafood store. Okay. No, Odin ripped his right eye out while hanging upside down on the tree for 9 days to bring runes. I've heard that before. One-eyed Jin. Odin is not the father. Okay. I call down judgment on all seen and unseen enemies of the one true God. Okay. Bye bye. Fair enough. I didn't know they're charging $4 to give. Okay, I'm not sure what he's saying. Hamza. Yep. Ton of he knows. He knows what's up. The Hamza hand sign that's found everywhere, all across the world. Just about everywhere you find the swastika, you find that hand sign. Metis are located in Canada, use an Ouroboros on their flag, but Zeus for Metis pregnant. Interesting. Zoglodites, perhaps. Okay, we're Odin. When the Russians first crossed Siberia, the Tingtits were in two-story houses. Okay. Mocking me is to mock. Okay, fools. All right, take it easy. We're all here again. I can't strain it enough. Like, just be respectful of everyone's opinions. Again, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything, but merely sharing um, things I think that are being worth brought to everybody's attention. So come to whatever conclusion you want, whatever pair of glasses you want to wear. That's your choice. I respect that 100%. Respect everyone else's choice to have a different opinion. I have no problem with that. Neither should you. Black Sun symbology. How the heck did I miss this live Walker Bearer? Yeah, how did you? It was impromptu. I didn't have it planned. I just knew that I was recording late, and I thought, man, if I'm going to record this late, I'm just going to do a live and see how it goes. Because bears go all the way to the woods to shit. Oh my gosh. I don't think it means Saturn in that Black Sun symbology. Thanks for the live stream. All right. Well, I feel like I kind of went far enough up there. Maybe I'll go a little bit farther. The articles is the missing mix of French Canadian and First Nations are named Metis, just like Greek. Yep. Okay. I'm glad I went a little farther up. Yeah. The again, Canadian symbology, not just Nova Scotia, but all the way to the Pacific. It's quite incredible, especially with when we start kind of correlating some of the Indian lore, quote Indian lore, into the narrative. But again, part of what I want to do is I want to go even beyond the quote Aboriginal stock of America and talk about what lies beneath, because even the most ancient people, like the Mayans, said that there were at least 3 civilizations that came before them. And they describe a cyclical reset, so to say, that all life is eventually wiped and starts anew. Indian's such a misnomer indeed. Absolutely, it is 100%. Because there are a million cultures, and each one of them deserves their own limelight, so to say, and deep dive and explanation. But you do find a million overlays. We're all human, you know. We all are human. Odin is a place in Finland. Yeah, Finland. Again, Finland, Finnish. I talk about the history of the Etruscan language and how it was eventually deciphered from a mummy cloth. They found a mummy wrapped in a single piece of cloth, the entire thing. And on the cloth was a story. And a man worked for, I think, 10 years, maybe 11 years. And eventually, using the Finnish language, deciphered the story on the cloth. And it was incredible. Check out my Etruscan series. I go into that. Yeah, we are on the 4th turning. Yeah, sweet. Yep. Yeah, the Aztecs tell the same thing. Indian could be in Dan. What do you mean? Danites? Any Hungarians in the chat? Old World Micmac. I've talked a lot in the past about Micmac. They have, he knows the Tartan existed strongly in the Micmac, and their correlations again. Some of the earliest traders with people from the other side, quote unquote. The Basque and the Micmac were allies, and their language correlations are quite unbelievable. And when you look at their language, it is closest with, I would say, the quote, what we would call Egyptian, at least from a pictographic standpoint. And the Micmac history, no one's bringing that more to the forefront than Old World Micmac. Check him out on Instagram. His posts are fantastic. P.S. Speaking of hidden land, you cannot drop a pin north of 81. Yeah. Yep. I've talked about sailing beyond 81 degrees and what people were saying in the 1800s that they expected to. In fact, they witnessed beyond the water, the iced waters, a dry land with no ice. It's kind of similar to their stories of the South beyond the southern latitudes. Similar story. They expected to find a tropical land full of people. People were talking about that the lost tribes were actually just tribes that had gone to not only the north, but the south, underground or beyond the poles, whichever you want to call it. Mayan calendar was the start of a new age, correct? 2012. Well, there's a lot of misnomers with the 2012 stuff. I don't want to say one way or the other, but you're welcome to dive into that on your own. I would say that there's been quite a lot of good evidence that the 2012 date was a little bit off, or a lot of it off. Um, but yeah, ages when you don't need to rely on the Mayan calendar. You can freshen up or sharpen your astrological knowledge, and you can kind of skip the middleman. Don't listen to me. There's a lot of really good books out there. Look at the sky, get your own information. Janus Island at both ends. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big marker. Janus was also the King Ash. He was also known as King Ash, the ash tree, the Yggdrasil. He also went by Wotan, Odin, god of gods, the god of portals, doorways. This connects. Man, there's a million correlations there. But yeah, speaking of, shout out. Um, I will keep wanting to call him Black Sheep Researcher because that's his old school title. But um, I plan on doing a good Janus video collab here, hopefully in the next few months. So stay tuned for that. Literally hundreds of Indian artifacts. I have 8.8 pound Lake Superior agate as well. Most found by my father-in-law. I've added to what he started. Awesome, Samuel. That's sweet. Go on Unslaved with Michael Tassarian. Yeah, I would. I don't even know how to get in contact with him. I would love to. He's one of the only people that talks about the bicameral mind and how that correlates with the not only the exiting of Eden, but how that's a symbolic representation of the splitting of the and subconscious mind. Yeah, we could talk about so much stuff, me and Michael. I'd love to. What the fuck? Thank you, Joshua. Yeah, I always want to call him Black Sheep Researcher. That was his old name. But anyways, me and Paul are buddies, and he was staying away from doing collabs, but he asked me the last time we had a good dialogue if I was interested in doing something with him. So I just haven't put anything on the books, but that's something I'm definitely interested in doing. It's probably one of my most requested topics is Janus and how that kind of correlates in this whole thing. JJ Organics, yeah, what the fuck? Oh, okay. Love Michael. Yeah, me too. I'm gonna send you the link on IG. This week I recorded on Petra also being Jamaeus, which comes from ancient Greek imus or ham. Interesting. Yeah, I'll probably have to do a whole video on the correlations between the Mayan language and Greek because I meant on sharing this. In fact, we'll just do a quick read through of this because I had mentioned it to you guys and I do want to get to it. I've done a post on this on Twitter, so you can follow it on Twitter. You can just search. I don't know. I'll pull it up before we end the thing here, um, but yeah, he found that the deluge story is actually the Greek alphabet, and I'll just read the translation here. Okay. And if you want, you can just pause the video and take a screen grab. But I'm just going to read the translation, the Mayan translation here. Okay. Heavily break the waters, extending over the plains. They cover the land. In low places where are there obstructions, Whirlpools strike the earth with water. Excuse me. The water spreads on all that lives and moves. Sediments give way. Submerged is the land of Mu. The peaks only, excuse me, my goodness. The peaks only appear above the water. Whirlpools blow round by little and little until comes cold air. Before, where the valleys existed, now abysses, cold tanks in circular places. Clay is formed. A month opens vapors, then come forth in volcanic sediments. Now, maybe further down the line, we'll talk about Queen Mu and how she was also called Queen Mud. And the kind of story of the sediments and the mud flood concepts correlate quite nicely with this kind of deluge story and what that represents. But yeah, I couldn't be happier with my first little impromptu no heads up live stream. So I'm going to call it there. Got to get everybody fed and ready for bed. Appreciate you all very much. If there's anything I missed at all, please leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you guys. And let me know what you think about live streams when it comes to articles like this. I'm already working on my next Radium live stream. You know, I've tried to make every Radium video a live stream. I do have Anomalous America almost finished. So, like I said, I'm not sure on the time frame. I have it booked for 5 in the morning PST, which I know is hard for you to make, but I always get a great turnout. I may be changing that to maybe like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time PM as opposed to AM. But yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. You know, short notice. Couldn't be happier with the turnout. Hopefully, you enjoyed the material as always. Yeah, in the next Radium video, we're going to talk about sunshine, liquid sunshine, as they called it, and make a few more correlations, not only with orange juice, but radium and its absorption in the body, light, the symbolism involved there, and why the sun and its life-giving power, its radiation, had such a kind of held such a strong accord with the kind of a godly perspective. But yeah, so again, appreciate you all very much. If there's anything I may have missed in these comments, I apologize. Leave a comment at when the video goes up, and I'll try to get back to you. Gary Bjork went to Scappoose, Oregon High School. Very cool. Scappoose is a pretty cool place. I have family lives there right now. But yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this short notice, and enjoy the rest of your night. Bye, guys.